International Affairs editor Philip Turle is in the studio to break down those statements for us. Philip, just tell us more about what Putin had to say and what exactly he's implying.
It's no surprise, really, that Vladimir Putin made these comments just hours after that meeting in Paris yesterday between European heads of state and government, plus Canada, plus Turkey, meeting to discuss the coalition of the willing, as they call it, and the eventual sending of troops to Ukraine to make sure that a ceasefire agreement is looked after. And that's something that the Russians have said right the way down the line that they're not in favor of. It's also really put paid to Donald Trump's idea that Ukraine and Russia could come to the negotiating table to work out some kind of ceasefire deal for 30 days, and then they could work together towards a peace agreement. Vladimir Putin has shot down that idea with what he's been saying. He's saying basically that what he wants is for the United Nations to intervene to put it under temporary control while a peace deal is worked out. But this is the first time he's really said it in such a clear manner. There's no place for Volodymyr Zelensky because he's an illegitimate president. He should have held elections last year. He didn't do that, so he cannot be the person that we will have as the interlocutor in this so-called peace deal that we're going to work towards in the future. So what Vladimir Putin, if you read between the lines, is looking at here is basically a way of getting Zelensky out of the picture so that he can introduce a puppet regime into Ukraine that will be on the heels of the Russian leadership, do what Russia wants. And that exactly is what Vladimir Putin has always wanted since the start. And this is the most direct in the way he's been saying that. And I think this is going to come as no surprise in Europe, because everyone in Europe has been saying, look, you can't count on Vladimir Putin to be someone who you are going to depend on to uphold his promises. And it will be a big frustration for the United States and Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has been playing into the hands of Vladimir Putin since he came to the White House on the 20th of January. Remember that the United States voted with the Russians and the Belarusians and North Korea in favor of not recognizing territorial integrity of Ukraine. So this is something that I think is going to be highly frustrating to Donald Trump and to the US government. But it sort of shows really where Vladimir Putin is coming in all of this, and the fact that he's not that interested in a peace deal.
Well, of course, this could have an impact on this possibility of a working relationship between Russia, Europe and the US, especially as this negotiations with this US ceasefire deal are ongoing.
Well, it shows that there are different positions that are practically irreconcilable. Russia doesn't want to have any kind of peace deal, or certainly not the one that Donald Trump is offering. Russia appears to be more determined to carry on the ground to advance its troops as much as possible. Vladimir Putin saying in that address yesterday, this is on the sidelines of the Arctic Forum, that Russia is making gains on the ground in Ukraine, in the east of Ukraine, and that he, quote, is going to kick out the Ukrainian forces. Well, that's not strictly true, because Russia is making gains, very small gains, and hasn't managed to take control of the whole of Ukraine despite being at war with Ukraine for the last 3 years. But this is all playing into the hands, of course, of Russian media and Russian public opinion. It's not what the United States wants to hear right now. What Donald Trump wants to hear is Vladimir Putin saying, right, let's get to the negotiating table to work out a 30-day ceasefire deal. And it's not really what Volodymyr Zelensky wants, because he's under pressure now from Russia, which he already knew he was, to get out of the way. He's also under pressure from the United States to give more and to give in to what the United States wants, which is playing into the hands of the Russians. And then it's leaving in the middle the Europeans, who are trying to set up this coalition of the willing and not getting on too well with that. Remember that after the talks in Paris yesterday, everyone is in agreement that there should be no lifting of sanctions against the Russians, because that is one leverage that could eventually push Russia to come to the negotiating table. But there's no coalition agreement between the Europeans on what this force on the ground would look like. Only Britain and France have said they're going to contribute troops to that movement, between 10,000 and 30,000. But no other countries have really come forward and said, yes, we will contribute troops. We know that Italy won't. We know Croatia won't. We know Spain won't. We're not sure about any other countries in the European Union and outside Europe who may be willing to do that. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of frustration, I think, being felt by Volodymyr Zelensky right now, that whatever he tries to do, there doesn't seem to be much budging when it comes down to people giving him much support to push Russian forces back in Ukraine and to recuperate Ukrainian territory.
Philip, thank you so much for that piece of analysis.